Welcome back to another video, episode 13 of Bodyweight Basics. Today's vlog is going to be a foodie vlog, but it can't be at the moment because we currently have like no food in the house. So I'm going to have to go food shopping, which actually was a suggestion in a comment and a suggestion by a client of mine that they thought would be an interesting one to see. And I thought it'd be a really useful video to kind of see roughly what I buy each week, and that might give you some ideas of what you can buy and how you can start implementing more healthy nutrition choices into your lifestyle. This does mean there's not going to be a huge amount of training in today's vlog, so for those who are interested in the training stuff, I'll throw up some clips now. I re-achieved the handstand push-up and I still stuck at one-arm handstands, so it's kind of where we're at. There will be some leg training later on today, but I'm not going to do a commentary. The first thing we need to talk about really is location and where to buy your food. This is kind of the big one. Most people go to a supermarket, which is fine. You can get some good stuff in a supermarket. But ultimately, local is going to trump that. So usually I get my meat from a local butcher's. I know the butchers are good. The quality is generally going to be higher and fresher than that of a supermarket. If you don't have a butcher's close to you, you can also use some online direct trade with like farmers. I think a good example of this would be Green Pastures, and I think there's another one called Field and Flower. I'll link them down below if you don't have a butcher locally and you're in the UK. But if you can get somewhere local, then that's really the best thing you can do. And a lot of the times if you go to a butcher's locally, you'll find that because they're not having to pay for those distribution and other costs that you have added on to a supermarket, the price of the food will actually be cheaper. So that's a win-win. So a couple of things important to note about this is, number one, there is more stuff than this that I bought with this shop, mainly for the rest of my family, which kind of brings me on to point two. This shop is for 4 people, so it's not just me, which is why maybe it looks like a lot of food. Let's talk about protein first, because that's what everyone likes to talk about, and to be honest, it's probably one of the more tastiest parts. Number one, we have a whole chicken. As I mentioned in like 2 vlogs ago, which I'll link down below, whole chickens are fantastic for meal prep. They do sort of, 5 to 7, 8 servings in that one chicken. It's a very good value meal. You use the whole animal, and it's relatively cheap to get really good quality meat. So that's that. Second, mince. So this is just standard beef mince, ground mince. I buy a kilo. That will do like a big chili, a big bolognese. You can make it into beef burgers, which I just got from the butcher's. Very cheap, again, very simple, and it can be great for a bulk meal. We've also got some bacon, which is just, and then secondly, some lamb. So this is lamb neck. This is again quite a cheap cut. It's a little bit fatty, so it's really flavoursome, and this goes great in curries again, which is something you can cook in bulk and make it very simple. Then we got a long time favourite for me, which is smoked mackerel, another cheap and very good quality protein source. It's high in omega-3 fatty acids. It's a very fatty meat, which is great if you're on a bit more of a high fat, but it's cheap, great quality, always wild. And then I have also some wild salmon. This is a little bit more expensive, so I don't buy as much, but it's more of like a nice to have, and I get it kind of when it's on offer as well. Again, great source of omega-3s, again, wild, clean sources. And that's kind of most of the protein that I generally eat. Next, we have fat sources. Number one, we have butter. My family goes through quite a bit of butter, but butter is actually a health food. There's a lot of good stuff in butter. It's not bad for you. Makes everything taste amazing as well. I buy unsalted because I also make bulletproof coffee most mornings. Halloumi, just because halloumi is bay. Avocados, again, very nutrient dense. They are a fruit at the end of the day, but they're also very high in fats, especially polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, which is nice to have a balance, especially if you're consuming a lot of saturated fats in the form of butter. Then, also going along those lines, we've got another fruit that is fatty, so we've got olives, and again, they taste amazing. They're full of very, very high quality fats, just great for you, and make stuff taste good if you throw it on a salad. Then, my personal favorite, dark chocolate. This one's kind of on the edge of being healthy. I would say it has to be above 85%. You might be able to get away with 70 just to reduce the amount of sugar that is in it. High quality cocoa is actually very high in antioxidants, iron, and a bunch of other nutrients. It's actually a very nutrient dense food, and it tastes amazing. Secondly, nuts. I don't actually eat a whole lot of nuts. I have a little bit of peanut butter and stuff. I tend to stick to Brazil nuts for the selenium, but I don't tend to eat a whole lot of nuts. And lastly, coconut milk. I usually use that to cook things like curries, but again, great source of fats and pretty cheap. Next we have veggies, which you may notice is not a huge amount of vegetables considering there's 4 people, and that's because we actually get our veg from like a local veg box. So it comes every week, it's always freshly picked, it's always seasonal, so you know it changes throughout the year, and it is generally grown locally and in the UK. So I am getting that tomorrow, so I'm going to fast forward now to tomorrow and show you what that one looks like. So this is the veg box that we get every single week. It costs around £30, I think. It does veg for 4 people for the week, and the best thing about it is it's all relatively locally sourced, it's all organic, and it's fresh every single week. There's no sort of sitting around on a shelf in a supermarket, it just comes straight to your door. So for example, today we've got purple sprouting, we've got some spinach, pea shoots, tomatoes, mushrooms, whatever these are, carrots, turnips, broccoli, more tomatoes, onions, potatoes as well, like a whole mix of veg basically, and it varies every single week. But that's kind of the nice thing about the veg box, is that you do get something different every single week. So it means you try to cook something different, or you try a different vegetable, or you do something that you wouldn't usually do if you kind of stick to the same thing all the time in the supermarket. And then this kind of is the main bulk of the veg, combined with some little extras from the shop yesterday. But back to the veg today. We've got mainly fruit, kind of bananas, mango, apple, pears. Limes are great at spicing things and making things a bit zesty. Frozen berries, because they're loads cheaper than fresh berries, especially this time of year. Kale, standard leaf stuff. Herbs are a great way of adding more nutrients into your food and making things taste amazing. Chilies, if you like spice. And sweet potatoes, which is one of my carb sources, alongside rice, which kind of brings me on to the extra stuff that I haven't mentioned yet. Rice is always my go-to. It's probably one of my main carb sources that I use because it's very easy to cook, it's relatively cheap, and it tastes pretty good with anything really. I've also got some dark chocolate rice cakes because if I feel like a treat, that's kind of what I will have. Chopped tomatoes, again, going alongside with like the coconut milk, that's great for just making things like chilies, curries, etc. Oatly, I generally put this in shakes or smoothies just to make it a little bit creamy, a little bit thicker. Salt is just an essential, and I ran out and I needed to buy some. Whole milk we have here. I don't actually drink milk at all except for in espresso coffee, so that's the only time I use milk. If you're going to buy milk, you can pasteurize. Not ideal, unhomogenized is the worst. And finally, some sparkling water, because drinking still water gets boring, and sparkling water isn't super expensive, and it just makes things kind of fresh. But that is basically today's shop. As I said, this does more than just me. This is not exhaustive. This is not everything you might want in a weekly shop. This is personally the sort of things that I stick to. It does change week by week, but let me know what you buy on a weekly basis, or things that I might have missed out in my kind of food shop that you have in yours on a staple. So leave a comment down below, join the conversation. Let me know kind of the things you would throw in there as well. And now, as I said, it's time to go and train legs. Post-workout shake after a pretty solid, more strength and conditioning focused, although it's not really, but pretty decent session. One thing you may notice that is different about that workout is the lack of middle split training, and that's because lately I've been getting very sore hips from doing the middle split stuff. So I'm just kind of taking a couple of weeks of doing basically 0 middle split training, and then I'm going to jump back into it and see how things feel. One thing that is new though is head to toe, and I thought I would just start giving it a go again because maybe I'm somewhat masochistic in that way. It just sucks. I'm gonna cut the vlog off there. I hope you enjoyed this kind of food shopping, food orientated day, and I hope it's gonna be useful for you. You can try and add some of those things in and see if it helps you a little bit towards your goals. As I mentioned, you can leave a comment down below telling me what you thought I missed out, what I could add, what you personally would have in your shopping list. You can also hit this thumbs up button and support the channel. Also hit that subscribe button. We are almost at 100,000 subscribers, which is just crazy. But that has been it for this week, guys. I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a strong week and peace.